A torque wrench is an essential tool for the mechanic, either professional or home do-it-yourselfer. I own 3 of them that I use for a variety of different jobs depending on the torque required. The correct torque is super important, not just to ensure it's tight enough and won't come loose, but also to stop it being over-tightened with the risk of screw breakage or the stripping of threads. Just watch someone get angry at themselves when they strip out the thread of an alloy engine block or snap a screw in an inconvenient location because they didn't apply an accurate torque. But here's the problem. A traditional torque wrench can't be used in all situations. The thread might be left hand, or the torque value too high, or you can't get access to the fastener with your torque wrench. What I'm going to show you is a single tool that costs less than $10 that will work for all of these situations. It will torque a fastener every bit as accurately as a traditional torque wrench, and I've been using one for years. In fact, I rebuilt an entire engine and automatic transmission with it when I was living overseas years ago when most of my tools were at home and I couldn't source a torque wrench. So what is this amazing tool? Just some digital luggage scales. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to use one of these to apply an accurate torque to pretty much anything. You can even use these to check and calibrate your traditional torque wrench. It's not a replacement for a traditional torque wrench because these work well and are really convenient, but these scales are a great thing to have in your toolkit when a traditional torque wrench just won't work. Here are some examples. This BMW engine oil pump nut is a left-hand thread, and if you get the torque on this wrong, it's going to really spoil your day when the oil pump sprocket falls off, which is something that has happened a lot on these engines when rebuilt. The axle nut on this Porsche needs 460 Newton meters, which is way beyond the capability of my largest torque wrench. A torque wrench of this capability is super expensive and you'd rarely use it. The engine mount bolts on this Porsche engine has limited space that only allows access with a ring spanner. The Porsche solution to this is to remove the whole engine from the car to gain access. Well, not for me with my luggage scales. And this belt tensioner bolt on the same Porsche engine only allows access with this small T50 Torx fitting, and there's no way I can get a torque wrench in there. The Porsche solution is a detachable fitting that goes onto a bespoke torque wrench, which is something I definitely don't own. So, what do most of us do when we're faced with a problem like this? Well, we generally just use the old German torque setting, Guten Tag, which is just a nice way of saying we guess. Unfortunately, this isn't very accurate and can have you create a huge problem for yourself if you can't use something that can torque it accurately. Here's an example of using Guten Tag and getting it really wrong. Someone contacted me recently who had a mechanic replace this tensioner I showed you and broke this bolt due to not having the equipment or knowledge to torque it correctly. They then attempted to drill it out by cutting through the chassis and butchered the whole thing and still didn't get it fixed properly. If you took it to a Porsche dealership to have it fixed, they would remove the engine from the car to get access to the parts so this mess could be sorted. I hate to think of how many thousands of dollars would be wasted here. And the sad thing is, it's so simple to avoid this sort of thing. As long as you can get some sort of tool onto the fastener, you can use these luggage scales to accurately and easily torque it every single time. Before I show you how to use the scales, I'll explain a little bit about torque, which is essential understanding prior to using the scales as a tool. Also be warned, this will require some very basic maths. Torque is a force that causes something to rotate. The amount of torque is the multiplication of the force applied and the distance from the rotation point where this force is applied. So torque equals force times distance. For example, here is the bolt I'm tightening, and I'll look at the torque unit of foot-pounds first, as this is simpler than Newton meters, which I'll describe afterwards. If I apply a force of 10 pounds at a distance of 2 feet, then I'm applying 20 foot-pounds of torque. If I apply that same 10 pounds of force but at a distance of half a foot, then the torque applied is 5 foot-pounds. And if I apply a force of 100 pounds at a distance of 5 feet, I'm applying 500 foot-pounds of torque. Note that all these are within the capability of my luggage scales, which is good for up to 110 pounds or 50 kilograms. So to work out what force I need to apply for a specified torque, I simply rearrange the torque equation. The force required is equal to the torque divided by the distance I'm applying it. An example, I need to apply 15 foot-pounds of torque, and I'm going to apply this at a distance of 1 foot. I divide 15 by 1 to get 15. So I need to apply 15 pounds of force using the scales at a distance of 1 foot. If I want to apply the same 15 foot-pounds of torque but at a distance of 2 feet, I divide 15 by 2 to get 7.5. So I only need to apply 7.5 pounds with the scales at this distance of 2 feet. If I want to apply 300 foot-pounds of torque and I intend to apply the force at a distance of 3 feet, then 300 divided by 3 is 100 pounds of force. When talking Newton meters, there is just a small change to the torque equation. A Newton meter, as the name suggests, is the torque where 1 Newton of force is applied at a distance of 1 meter. So what is a Newton? If you really want to know, do an internet search, but basically 1 kilogram is the equivalent of 9.8 newtons. And if you're like me, 9.8 is close enough to 10. So the equation of force equals torque divided by distance simply needs to be divided by 10 to get the number of kilograms you need to apply. I'll do a few examples to explain. If I need to apply 23 Newton meters and I'm going to apply this at a distance of 30 centimeters or 0.3 meters, the Newton force I need to apply is 23 divided by 0.3, which equals 76.6 newtons. To get the kilograms, I divide this by 10, which is 7.6 kilograms. So in summary, I would need to apply 7.6 kilograms of force at 30 centimeters to achieve 23 Newton meters of torque. Looking at my earlier example of applying 460 Newton meters to the wheel axle nut, I'm going to apply the force at a distance of 1 meter. 460 divided by 1 is 460 newtons. Divide this by 10 and you get 46 kilograms of force. As long as you understand the concept, you can apply the correct torque to any fastener as long as you can get a tool of any kind onto it. Set it up, zero the scales, apply the force with the scales at 90 degrees to the lever using a smooth pull. You will notice the readout slowly increase, and then you can simply stop pulling when the scales read what you need. Perfectly torqued and no strip threads or snap screws. The scales I have come with a wide strap that I sometimes use, but I've also attached a piece of rope with a loop that will give you a more accurate position, which is useful for small torque settings. I often will attach a screw or something to the lever that makes it easier to attach the rope, or I simply put the loop around the lever after marking the correct distance location. So here are some practical examples of how I would use this on a car. If a left-hand thread, I'll simply measure the distance to where I'm going to apply the force using a standard tool and then apply this turning anti-clockwise. That left-hand oil pump nut needs 25 Newton meters, and I'll use a standard ratchet ring spanner and hook the rope onto the other end. The distance to where I'll hook up the rope is 19 centimeters or 0.19 meters. 25 divided by 0.19 divided by 10 is 13.2 kilograms of force. For the engine mount screw, where I can only fit the ring spanner, I have a piece of pipe I've squashed in a bit in a vise so that it jams over the top. This line is at 40 centimeters and I need 65 Newton meters. 65 divided by 0.4 equals 162.5. Divide by 10 and I need to apply 16.25 kilograms at this distance of 40 centimeters. To think that Porsche have in their workshop manual to drop the engine to torque this correctly is crazy. All 4 of the engine mount screws I can easily torque like this. For the tensioner screw that needs 28 Newton meters, I have this piece of timber that I screw an 8mm ring spanner to. I use a bit of blue tack to hold the Torx piece in place, and I've marked the timber at 30 centimeters and put a screw here to hook up the scales. 28 divided by 0.3 divided by 10 equals 9.3 kilograms of force. Dead easy. That 460 Newton meter axle nut is simple. I use a 1 meter long square pipe over a breaker bar and just pull to 46 kilograms. You can get really creative depending on what you need to do. I've used a lever of 2 meters long at times on my old tractor. And the nice thing about modern digital scales is that they are surprisingly accurate and well within the tolerance specs of a normal torque wrench. You can check how accurate they are by checking the output against a known weight. It's also dead easy to check how accurate your traditional torque wrench is. I've done this loads of times and even used this to calibrate my torque wrenches. Simply measure the distance from the square drive to where you intend to apply the force, put the square drive in a vise, work out how much force you expect to apply at the scales at the torque setting you've set on the torque wrench, and then pull with the scales until it clicks. Did you get what you expected? Maybe a recalibration is needed, which is done using the same technique. It's dead easy to check the wrench using lots of torque settings to confirm it's working throughout the full range. A good torque wrench will be accurate everywhere. A cheap one is probably not going to be accurate throughout, which is a really good thing to know. I hope you found this helpful, and if it stops a single person from stripping a thread or breaking a screw that could have been avoided, then my mission has been accomplished. All the best and happy driving.